a lot of people who are trying to make a purchasing decision in this price range, I mean, this is one of the things that you're looking at, and you want to know how to stack up.
So as you can see, it's got a good amount of power for throwing around, making rooster tails in the dirt. If you think about the fact that you're getting all this performance on two effectively AA size batteries, that's pretty cool.
I got something to say, something to say.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is OurHouse21 and welcome to a new episode of RC Physics. So for all of you out there who aren't familiar with the channel, RC Physics is all about the science and technology behind our favorite RC hobby. So this is a cool little video. So I had the guys at Bonzai RC reach out to me and give me an opportunity to review one of their new products. So this right here is a 1/14 scale buggy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I honestly wasn't very familiar with Bonzai RC. So if you've been watching all of the YouTube RC car channels, you've probably seen that there's a lot of very interesting low cost small scale, like 1/16, 1/14 scale cars out there. So Bonzai RC is you know, they have a number of products that just add to that. So you can see right here the slogan, small scale, big adventure. So I think that pretty much wraps up what they're all about. So let's take a look at the car and see how it compares to some of the others. So, so this is kind of cool. So just looking in, you can see that the packaging actually looks pretty decent. Just gonna go ahead and pull this guy out. So this is my first time actually seeing this car. So as you can see, it was a true unboxing. I cut open the box and you got my real reaction. Let's see if I can get this thing out in one piece. So it looks like, there we go. All right, so that's a pretty tight fit in here. So we've got the car itself, and honestly, it's got a little bit of weight to it. It's got a little heft. It's not as lightweight as I thought it was going to be, because looking at just the listings, it showed plastic construction, and that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, looking at the bottom of it before I even take off the case, you know, it's got a what looks like a composite reinforced polymer shell. It's pretty high density, you know, so the material feels kind of like something that you see on a Traxxas, so that's not a bad thing. The arms, again, feels like the same material. So again, these are probably some sort of composite filled plastic pieces. And if you aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, so there's certain types of polymers that you can basically add a filler to that will cause it to be even more rigid. Well, a lot of RC parts are done that way. So there's a number of different materials that have little bits of composites embedded into the plastic to make it more rigid, make it stronger. That's what this plastic feels like to me. So it has a little bit more heft and weight than a lot of other plastics, but that's a good thing. So looking at it, taking off the shell, what do we have? We saw I've removed, held on by two body clips, and I see the battery. So this looks like it's not a 540 class motor, but it's a pretty big little motor in here. And again, for vehicles of this class, you oftentimes see a combination receiver slash ESC. So that's what this guy is right here. Looks like just a little 2.4 gigahertz antenna. It uses the 5-wire servo. So what that means is that the electronics for the servo are actually inside of this box too. So that makes the servo itself, even though it's looks like a standard size, all the electronics that drive it are inside of here. So that makes that cheaper. Again, not a good thing or a bad thing, just different. Okay, and looking here, we've got the battery. So it looks like this is held on with this little latch. Let's see if I can move it. It's on there pretty tight. Okay. Wow, that is pretty tight. I think I'm doing this right. Okay. Yeah. So, wow. That's you're pretty tough. Okay, I might need to grab a tool. All right, let's try this again. So actually, here we go. So let's see if I can use this. This is surprisingly strong. There we go. All right. So it looks like that pops here. And now this lifts off and I can rotate that out. That's actually a clever design. Okay. So what we've got down here for battery is a little 850 milliamp hour lithium ion. So that's a cute little cell. Let's see if I can get it out of here. I'm putting down my tool. And it looks like it has a little foam block that's just wedged in here just to keep the battery from sliding around. That's actually a good detail, because one of the little things that you'll be concerned about with a lot of these cars is that there's not a lot of attention to detail sometimes. But honestly, this is pretty well thought out. That's pretty clever. So it looks like with the little foam block in here, this makes it so that you can use a larger cell, or you can go ahead and run these. So actually, hold on a second. I'm going to grab a couple larger cells just to see what will fit in here. Okay guys, I'm back. So I figure I will go grab some batteries just to see what else I can fit inside this battery box. So I've got, let's see, this is a little Venom. This is a 3S, 800 milliamp hour. And let's see, I got a bunch of them that are way too big. But here is a little 2S, 2000 milliamp hour. That looks like it might fit. All right. So let me see, what else do I have in my magical bag down here? See, this is a little 1800 milliamp hour 3-cell. So let's see how those guys fit. Oh, and this is a little, what are you? I think this is a 1500 milliamp hour. Yeah, 1500 milliamp hour 2-cell from another little guy. So let's see how they fit. Okay, so again, so you see, you got the 850 milliamp hour lithium ion right here. So let's see, looks like this 2000 looks like that fits in pretty well. Okay, let's try this 1500. Okay, looks like that works, and looks like it might be a little tall, but probably make that work. Okay, so this 1800, that's definitely not going to work with the stock battery box. Looks like it will fit in here, but I'd have to do a different hold down solution. And this little 800, yeah, that's definitely in there. So it looks like in addition to the stock battery, I've got quite a few other options, which is good, but something tells me that with this guy, the stock battery is probably going to be just fine. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that back together. And let's go ahead and open up the radio and check out the documentation. So interesting points here. You know what, I'm just gonna keep this out because I'm going to run this and I'm going to need to charge. So, all right. So this just goes to here. I'll tell you, I actually really like this battery box solution, even though it took me having to have a tool to get it down so it didn't break. All right, so let's, before I go into the box, let's just see how it feels. Okay, so it does have plastic 10th scale springs on it. And as we see, they are pretty bouncy. Okay, so these aren't great. Although they do have adjustable preload on them, and it looks like they've been adjusted already, so it looks like they have more preload in the back. But this brings up an interesting little point. So I'm going to take a guess that Bonzai RC already had people make comments about these shocks, which is why I had another package that came along with the box right here. So let's go ahead and open this guy up, and you'll see, aha, look at this. This is upgraded aluminum shocks, 2 sets. So I'm not really sure if these come with the car or if these are an add-on, but I'm definitely going to be throwing these on before my first run. So the big difference with these guys, and I did a whole video about aluminum shocks and everything, is that aluminum versus plastic. For a vehicle this size, honestly, a plastic shock is probably going to be fine, but the nice thing that you're going to get is that you're going to have less likelihood of the caps popping off on a big jump. That's a common problem that happens with less expensive plastic shocks. The other thing to look into before I run is whether or not these actually have oil in them, and just feeling it, it feels like it may not. So let me just go ahead and open one up and see what it has. So go ahead, pull one out of the package, and you see this is straight out the package. And let's see if I can get the shock cap off without a tool. Okay, cap's coming off. Do you have oil in you? No, you do not. You are bone dry. All right, so, and again, that's not that big a deal as long as you know. So if this is bone dry, something tells me that those are probably bone dry too. So, but I do see inside of there, it does look like an actual piston. So these are a functioning shock. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw some shock fluid inside of these guys and get them on and get some running, see how they do. All right, so let's get into the rest of the box. So already I have to say I like the packaging. You've got a manual and a charger. Oh, and isn't that cute? It's got a little lug wrench. And let's take a look. These actually have proper lug nuts. That's a big thing. Some of these guys in this class basically just have a screw that goes inside of it. My team associate at Apex actually came with that kind of wheel mount, which honestly I don't think is acceptable for a hobby grade car. So this is actually already just a, you know, that's a point in its advantage. So good. Okay, turning the diffs. I'm actually feeling good diff action. There's a little bit of resistance in here, which implies that the diffs are nice and greased. That's a good thing. All right, so let's open up the packaging, or open up the manual, see what it looks like. Okay. All right, so as you see, this is BOZ 1416, and okay, little icon showing you some of the things. So I guess that means 1/4 scale, off-road, 4-wheel drive, 390. That's probably the size of the motor. RTR, meaning ready to run, at 2.4 gigahertz. Okay, everything I need to know. So some of these manuals for these lower priced cars aren't the best written in the world, but just giving this a quick skim. Okay, we've got, looks like a decent drawing. In here, we've got, you know, how to control the model, all the basic information, troubleshooting guide, showing you batteries, showing you how to turn on a bind. Okay, so this is giving you all the information. Oh, this is nice. This is actually a really cool thing, because a nice CAD drawing showing how everything comes together, and part numbers. This is cool, because if you run an RC car, you're gonna break something. So being able to go in, find the part number and order replacement parts, that's a big thing. So I'm gonna have to, oh, and a nice description of each of the parts. That's a good thing too. All right, so overall, I'm fairly impressed with the manual. And I mean, it looks like it does everything a good manual should do. It tells you basic running instructions and it gives you all the part numbers. That's good. Oh, and even gives you a section in the back here for notes. That's surprisingly useful. trust me on that. All right, so okay, it's looking like this has plastic gears in the diffs, because I see it says right here plastic gear 39 tooth, so it's got a 39 tooth pinion in here, or that's actually a ring gear, and this right here is the pinion that's inside of the diffs. Okay, center gear. Okay, so it's got all the stuff for you. Okay, and this is a nice little tire wrench. Looks like it has 2 different sizes on it. So one is obviously for the tires. Okay, so it's not that one. It'll be this one. All right, perfect. It's got a good amount of leverage on it. So the other side, I'm not sure if this is just for a different style of vehicle. Probably so, because I don't see anything else that looks like it has a hex head on it that this would be used for. Okay. Oh, other cute little things. It looks like this has provisions for an anti-roll bar. Okay. All right, interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at the radio. So again, in this price bracket, generally these cars come with a functional radio. Oh, and looky here. You've got 2 batteries. All right, that's awesome. Okay, that will be very useful. And radio. So basic radio, it feels a little flimsy in your hand, but that's to be expected of this class car. Batteries takes 4 AA's. So nothing really special with this radio. It looks like it's just 2.4 gigahertz is nice because that will give you a good solid signal, and AFHDS. This is probably a spread spectrum protocol. What that means is that this should work pretty well without having a lot of interference. You've got your trims, steering and throttle up here. This basically just, for those who don't know, if you plug in the car and the wheels don't point straight, you can use these trims to basically adjust the 0 or the neutral position. So the radio looks like it's pretty decent quality for this class of vehicle. It feels a little cheap. The foam on the pad here actually feels kind of nice in my hand. So yeah, this looks like it will function pretty decently. All right, so all in all, initial impressions, it looks like it's a pretty solidly built vehicle. I'm pretty impressed with the density of the plastic that's in here. All right, so let's just take a quick look and see how much this guy weighs. So it is a 14 scale car. So the benefit of a 14 scale is that it is a small, lightweight vehicle. So being a lightweight vehicle, it takes less power to move the sucker around, and that's a useful thing. So let's go ahead and take it, and let's go in grams. So this guy, about 800 grams. So that's actually a little heavier than I thought it would be. So for those of us on the English side of the pond, 800 grams is 28 ounces, which is basically 1 pound and 12.7 ounces. So if you throw in a battery and the shell, you're talking about 2 pounds even. That's actually not bad. By contrast, the WLToys 14 scale that I unboxed a little while ago, that guy's quite a bit heavier than that. So the heavier the car is, the more weight you throw around, which means the bigger the battery and the bigger the motor you have to do to get the same level of performance. By having a little bit of a lighter car, that means you can get a little bit more go from a little less of a package. But again, it's still pretty solid. So I'm going to be pretty enthusiastic to get this thing out and see how it really does in the real world. All right. So all in all, I will say that initial unboxing, I'm pretty enthusiastic about this guy. It's got a solid weight to it. So it feels like The construction is pretty solid quality. I mean, the plastic feels good. It doesn't have an obvious cheap feel. And this is a hard thing to put into words, but anybody who's ever dealt with a cheap RC will know exactly the feel I'm talking about. I'm talking about poor construction, lots of slop. This right here, this is gonna sound bad. This feels tighter than some of my Traxxas cars knew. I mean, I'm talking about when I work the suspension, everything feels tight. There's not a lot of slop in the suspension. If you look at the differentials, they've got dog bone style, which honestly I prefer like a U-joint, but they're solid and they work. The gears roll with a nice solid feel to it. Again, like I said, I'm not feeling a lot of slop in this guy at all. I mean, there's a little bit of slop on the edge here, but from the suspension members themselves, these guys are here pretty tight. It's a good clearance, but again, it's not flopping around. This actually has a pretty solid quality feel, so good job, Bonzai. Just overall initial impressions, construction and build quality, I think this guy feels pretty solid. So the next step is for me to fill up these shocks, swap them on, check out the factory shocks just to see, is there oil in here? I suspect there isn't. And then take this guy out for a run with the stock batteries and see how it does. All right, guys. So this was interesting. This was fun. So I'm looking forward to getting this guy out and testing it out, running it up against my WLToys 14 scale and some of my other cars and just seeing how it holds up. So for those who remember the unboxing of the WLToys, you saw that I had pretty big plans to do some significant modifications to that guy. And I was all set to do it, and I actually still am set to do it, but I knew I was going to get some of these guys in first. So I wanted to be able to run these guys back to back with each other and see how they performed before I start modifying things, because I'm just curious about, like, for a lot of people who are trying to make a purchasing decision in this price range, I mean, this is one of the things that you're looking at, and you want to know how's it stack up. So I'm going to be able to tell you. Right. Okay, guys. So for a little bonus, I just figured I would go ahead and put this guy, the Bonzai RC Jubatus 14 scale, up against this. This is the WLToys. I'm not even going to try to say it. This is the WLToys 14 scale. So obviously 14 scale, 14 scale. Size compares very favorably. This one versus this one. Thing that interesting to point out, this has slightly bigger tires, a little bit more knobby. Does that make a big difference? Probably not, but I suspect that these tires might actually be more akin to like maybe 10 scale-ish tires. I mean, they're a little bit bigger. So, but interesting things. This has the stock suspension geometry. So you can see that this has quite a bit more toe than this does. This is pretty much straight wheels. But overall, so this is quite a bit heavier. And that's to be expected because this has a metal chassis as opposed to the plastic chassis. Now let me just double check to make sure there's not a battery in here. No, there's not a battery in here. But just kind of looking at the construction differences between the two cars, it's actually kind of surprising. So again, the Bonzai is a all polymer, aka all plastic construction. And honestly, I think it's a little bit cleaner layout. This guy right here though, it's got quite a bit more actual aluminum in here. So we've got aluminum shocks, aluminum shock towers, aluminum chassis plate. It's got a bigger motor because of that. This is a 540 size. This is a 370 size. Interestingly enough, this has a smaller servo. This looks like a 9-gram servo, whereas this looks like a full-size 10 scale servo. But again, it all results to be, this is about 100 grams lighter than this. So even though this has a lot more composite, the weight, I mean, it is actually heavier, but it's not as much heavier as I thought it would be. Okay, so how about performance? Does this stand up to that? Well, we're gonna find out shortly. All right, guys, so I installed the aluminum shocks that came with the car, and I will say that these actually made a big difference. So when you put shocks on, you have to do the obligatory drop test. So there you go, no bouncing. So I put 45 weight fluid in here. So the 45 weight shock oil isn't too aggressive, but it seems to work pretty well. It does seem to be sitting pretty low in the rear, so I need to probably want to go ahead and adjust the suspension arms here. Oh, I forgot to preload this one right here. I don't think that's the difference, but let's just go ahead and do it. So not a lot of science involved here. I just did a coarse matching of what was on here with the stock springs. And okay, so it's sitting a little bit closer to level, but the front is quite a bit taller than the rear. So just to get uniform ground clearance, I'll go ahead and move the pins into the inner mount. That will make it sit a little bit more level. But actually, let me see. Actually, doing it like that, it's not too bad. Okay, I'll play around with that and see how it works overall. Next step is to go ahead and put a battery in this guy and give it a run to see how it holds up. Hey guys, how's it going? RHouse21 here. Today I have a Bonzai RC Jubatus 14 scale buggy that I'm going to go out and see how this thing performs. So I, right next to this guy, have a WLToys 14 scale. As you can see, they're pretty similar in size, but they're very different vehicles. This guy right here has got a 550 size motor in it, but it needs that because this is made out of aluminum construction, which has a lot of weight, but it also packs a lot of performance. So today I want to see if this guy right here, which has a more traditional 14 scale size motor in it, but still a big boy for this, and a pretty big servo, I want to see if this can hang up with a guy like that. All right, so first things first, this is a lighter weight vehicle, but it's got really good solid construction and it feels solid. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel plasticky. It doesn't feel toy grade. It definitely feels hobby grade. And that's an awesome thing because a lot of vehicles in this class, or I should say in this price range, you know, they may have the size, but they have a more toy-like feel. This, I want to just say it, this has better fit and finish and better stiffness, you know, better overall construction than a lot of my Traxxas vehicles did brand new that cost many times as this. Sorry, X01, I'm talking about you and some of the other ones as well. But fit and finish and all that is nice, but the real thing is to see how this guy performs. So let me go ahead and throw the battery in and see what it can do. So this guy has a very interesting battery box. I like that. And it uses these lithium ion cells. So this is a 2-cell lithium ion. So it has this little Molex connector. Now, this probably isn't going to pull a whole lot of juice. So yeah. All right, so let's go ahead, turn on transmitter first and plug this guy in. All right, there we go. And push the on-off button. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, going to turn it. Oh, there we go. All right, so we are alive. Okay, so first things first. All right, so we have operations. Now the servo, I'm going to say right off the bat,
the servo is a little slow. So we're going to see how that affects overall performance. But it looked like it had a good amount of travel. That's a good sign. All right. And this transmitter has steering and throttle trim. All right. So this guy's all ready to go. Let's see how it runs. And of course, the first thing I do when I get it out is roll it. That's not the car's fault. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So, initial impressions. This is about what I would expect from a car of this class. So as you can see, it's got a good amount of power. It's kicking up rooster tails. Now, this surface is not being a friend to any of the cars I brought out here because it's just so loose. It's really hard for the tires to connect, especially tires that have these little knobby patterns. But that said, it's doing a pretty decent job. I can actually drive this one. Now, I'm used to some higher end cars, so the steering is a little slow. And that can get you in trouble, for example, in situations like that. So, let's do a better toss this time. All right. All right, that was pretty good. So this one actually has bigger tires than the last 14 scale I came out here with. And that's actually helping it to go through the taller grass and not to get beached on the rocks. Now, this thing's got good power. I'm not going to say it has great power, but it's got really, oh, good save. See if I can recover it. Let's just go down. There we go. Like I said, it's got good power. It's not great power, but it's enough to throw it around. All right, let's take it to the toilet bowl over here. Okay, I am just beaching this thing on this tall grass. So as you can see, it's got a good amount of power for throwing around, making rooster tails in the dirt. And that's about it. All right. Okay. All right, so the battery just fell off a cliff. All right, so let me go ahead and do a quick battery change. So it looks like it went to about half power, which is a good thing for a low voltage cutoff, so it doesn't just go dead in water. So that gives you that lets you know that it's about to go, so that you don't get stranded out somewhere and you have to go on a walk of shame to try to get your car back. All right, so let me go ahead. Fortunately, this guy came with 2 batteries, so I'm able to go ahead and throw in the second one and get right back up. So this one out, this one in, and again, identical 850 milliamp hour lithium-ion batteries. I've got some good 2000 milliamp hour lipos that I'll probably end up throwing in here and seeing how that runs. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this guy on. Okay, all right, we're live. And again, the servo, the power on this thing is not bad, but the servo, guys. But again, $100 RC. So throw it in. All right, so you already see the power increase. So, I mean, if you think about the fact that you're getting all this performance on 2 effectively AA size batteries, that's pretty cool. Now, you notice I'm flipping this thing over a lot, and yeah, that's definitely driver error, but oh, that's not bad. I'm flipping it over a lot, but you can make an argument so I think that the center of gravity may be a little bit too high in this car, and that's something that I can adjust out. But when I'm doing these landings, it's rolling over on this top a lot, you know, so that can be a little bit of a buzzkill because you have to do your walk of shame and turn the car over a lot. But you could also just become a better driver. So overall, who is this car for? I would say this would be a good first RC. You know, I mean, the build quality, like I said, is definitely feels hobby grade to me. So if you got a young'un in your life who you want to give an RC, who you want to give them an RC that has a good amount of performance but doesn't break the bank, but you don't have to worry about them like hurting themselves or hurting other people, this isn't a bad option. The one downside that I will say about this car is the servo. I mean, this guy is a lighter car than the WLToys, which I had out here just a little bit ago. And it has a bigger servo, but the steering is not nearly as responsive. Now, me being me, I'm tempted to do a full electronic swap in this thing and then just throw in a good fast servo, and that'll fix that all together, because the chassis doesn't feel too bad. It's just, I mean, and it's got a decent amount of power, like I said, So honestly, I think that the battery that comes with this car is a little bit of a letdown. It's sufficient power for the first few minutes, but I feel like I'm already almost done with this battery. Now I have been cranking it almost full throttle for this whole time, but that's besides the point. And that's interesting. I just lost steering. Okay. All right. All right, let me check you out. There we go. So I think that something got jammed. All right. So maybe a rock got inside the steering. Okay. All right. So we're back up. Okay. So again, I think this would be a good first RC. I think that this is for somebody who isn't afraid. I think that this is for somebody who would like to have something that they can give to someone and not be afraid of them hurting themselves, that can actually have a decent amount of performance, have a lot of fun. The downside with this car, the battery life is not incredible. I think that's why it ships with 2 batteries. But that said, do yourself a favor and pick up a cheap 2-cell lithium polymer battery. You can get 1500 to a 2000 milliamp hour battery for around 20 bucks. That would be money well spent for this, because the battery box would definitely take it. And if you don't want to buy a hobby grade charger, you can actually charge it on the battery charger that this thing came with, assuming you get one with a standard balance port. So what do I think? I like it. I really do. I just wish it had more servo. But look, I mean, the chassis feels pretty good. The upgraded shocks, I didn't talk about that, but the upgraded shocks that they sent me to put on here, they're doing a really good job. It's soaking up the bumps. It's not bouncy. So that's pretty good. I beached it. There we go. And we're pretty much out of battery. All right, so let's go ahead and limp this guy home. So you saw I went through 2 batteries. So yeah, 1500 to 2000 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery will probably be a very, very wise investment with this car. Upgrading to a new servo would be a great upgrade if you could, because one of the problems with these low-cost platforms is that they use these combination ESC receiver servo controller devices. So it uses a non-standard 5-wire servo here. So you can't just pop out, you can't just throw in a standard servo into here. So there's got to be a solution to this. Somebody's got to know how to do this. Guys, if any of you guys have figured out how to upgrade one of these guys to a standard servo, let me know. I'm really curious, because basically these guys put all the servo electronics inside the one box to make these servos cheaper. But I mean, if there's a way that I can get another servo that will fit inside of here that'll make this thing more responsive, I might be willing to do that. I mean, because overall, I mean, this is a good platform. It's a good rig. It's just almost there. So like I said, good first RC. So how does this guy compare to that guy? Honestly, they're kind of in two different classes. I would say this one is a great car that has a good amount of performance for somebody who maybe is less experienced. But if you've been driving for a really long time and you know what you're doing, and you want to have something like a 300, 400, 500 horsepower, Corvette Z06 or something like that, this is what you're looking for. This guy has more power and performance than I think your average person can put to the ground reliably. This guy right here is a lot more approachable. I think this is probably more drivable for more people. So if you're up to the challenge and you just want to send it and go all out, the WLToys is probably one you want to go with. but if you want something that's more for like a younger clientele, or something that you can just put together and not have to worry about too much, this isn't bad. I mean, it's a good option. And like I said, I love the build quality of this thing. This is a really solid rig. Actually, the build quality of both of these guys are actually really, really good. It's better than I expected. So all in all, I gotta give it a good solid 7 out of 10. I really do like it. If it had a better servo, it might have a 9 out of 10. Because the package is really good. If the servo was better, I would give this to my kids, probably buy a few more and just say, just have at it, because this would be a great basher. Decent power, the better batteries you got, because this little 850 milliamp hour lithium ion battery, it didn't quite give it the guts that I hoped it would, but it gave me a decent runtime, and it came with 2. So honestly, if you're running with kids, that might be enough. Me personally, next time I run it, I'm probably going to throw in a 2000 milliamp hour 2S LiPo. All right, but great car, some room for improvement, but like I said, I like it. It's a good car. Not a great car yet, but I think with a couple small things, it could be great. All right, guys, that's enough for right now. Our House 21 signing out. Remember the mantra: fly, fix, fly. Break it, fix it, do it all over again. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Instagram, RC Physics Handbox, Scouts Creation fan page. I'm all over the place. You know how to find me. But when I have an opportunity to run cool little cars like this, take it. So all 3 of the cars on this table right here are a lot of fun. Very, very different cars, I think, for different people. But the little Bonzai, if I put this thing, but this little Bonzai right here, I mean, I think it's a definite winner. It's a good car. I just wish they would have made it a little bit better. All right, guys, but like I said, the build quality and everything, I think it's top notch. I mean, I was really impressed by it. Just wish it had a better servo. All right, guys, our House 21 signing out. Remember mantra: fly, fix, fly. Break it, fix it, do it all again. Our House 21 signing out. Peace.